What we'll do is we'll go ahead and begin, and then if additional folks from your team join, we'll certainly sort of catch them up as we go through. I'm also recording this session. I'll get that to everybody afterwards so that you have that. First, again, thanks so much for being here. My name is David Cowan. I'm a facilitator working on the Moxiworks project. Have had a chance over the last 10 months to be doing MoxiEngage, Moxie websites, leads engine, a couple other tools, training with offices all across the country with agents and brokers. And so really great to have the chance to work with you. Myself, just been doing sales and CRM training for probably about 24 years or so. I'm also a managing broker myself, working independently in the retail world, been doing that for about 17 years. So I know the importance, the value certainly of having a CRM tool that works for you. And so this is going to feel a bit sequential. It's going to feel like a bit of an overview. We're certainly going to build some context around what this tool is, what it can do. We'll spend the majority of our time today in the tool itself, right? Kind of going through the functionality. It's going to feel, like I say, a bit sequential, and that's on purpose. We don't have a hugely, large group today, good sized group. So again, I want to make sure as we're going through, do feel free to, I'll pause periodically and kind of want your feedback, but also whether just unmuting and asking questions, throwing questions in the chat, I'll be sort of monitoring that as well. But we want this to be as interactive as possible, as opposed to just me going through step by step by step. And so again, greatly appreciate your questions as we go through. If I can, just give me 1 second. We'll pull up some slides, get a little bit of context, and then we'll jump into the tools. So just give me 1 second here. So hopefully you're all seeing something on your screen that says MoxiEngage for agents. Yes. Thumbs up, maybe. So okay. So just real briefly, a bit of a reminder. So we're going to go through the functionality of this tool. Obviously, as independent contractors, adoption of the tool, or adaption of the tool rather, in your offices, right, is completely voluntary. Again, I know it's going to, switching over to a new platform, a new CRM system is certainly something that's going to take some time, but from a perspective of being comfortable with it. But again, use of the tool on your end is completely voluntary. But again, I want to, as we go through this, sort of really build the case of what it can do, because I imagine as you're looking at this, you're kind of comparing it to your current process. And so again, the more questions you ask, I'll try and answer them. If we can't answer them here, we'll certainly want to make sure that we're, we're getting feedback to you from our project team, and we'll make sure that happens as well. So use of the tool is voluntary. Something else to just be mindful of, and I'm sure you already are, you wouldn't be working in residential real estate, right? So this is a bit of an inbound, but also an outbound tool. So that being said, it's just really important that you're, aware of, and I'm sure you are, of any kind of do not contact requirements in markets that you might be working in. It's not something that's come up that I've heard about in the last 10 months of doing this training, but we just want to make sure that that's something that you're aware of. Just kind of moving forward. And even with the pandemic, there have been some additional do not contact requirements put in place in markets that you might be working in. So again, just something else to be aware of. Another sort of reminder to think about, and again, I think one of the things that this tool is going to allow us to do is get out a lot of content, a lot of communication to our contacts, and we're certainly going to talk about that. A lot of that is built into this tool for you, which is fantastic, but just as another reminder, if you are going to be using, whether it's photos or anything else that you might have captured from somewhere else, just make sure that you have permission to use those images or anything that you might be sending out to folks. And again, I'm sure it's something that you're well aware of. You guys are much better marketers than I'll ever be. But that's just something that we're sort of tasked to remind you of, is just make sure you have permission to use any images that you might be using in a marketing capacity to get information out to customers. But again, a lot of that is built into this tool. So not a huge worry, but again, something to just be aware of. What we're going to try and cover in the time that we have today are really kind of a couple things. We're certainly going to talk a little bit about the journey. Again, this is kind of step one. You can't learn this whole tool without actually getting in there and practicing yourself. We're going to go in and look at some of the core functionality and talk a little bit about the business benefits, like it says on the slide, right? We'll certainly take a bit of a tour so you can see kind of how this thing works. And then we'll talk kind of about those next steps and how we're going to help you sort of reinforce, the understanding of the functionality. A couple other things to sort of think about, which are important, right? So we think it's good, obviously, to sort of attend a virtual session and become familiar with the tool. Agents and team leaders are doing that as well. There will also be some additional resources for you that I'll point out at the end of the course that's going to be able to sort of show you the different functionality that I'm going to point out today. So again, you don't have to go crazy with obviously writing things down. You're going to have a recording of the session. There's some additional resources, like I said, to help you get started. We'll point those out. And then after you've gone through this session and obviously those resources, right? There are some additional pieces on Century 21 University on your platform to just get you comfortable with how this thing works. So I don't want you to feel like this is a one and done, good luck. There's additional pieces here to make sure that you understand how to use this tool. And then there are planned to be some additional actual sessions that you'll be able to log on to, where you'll get some live support as well. So that's just kind of the launch pre and post. So I wanted to get you sort of familiar with that before we jump in. In terms of the Moxiworks tools, and some of these you might have had some exposure to already. But yes, it's a suite of products really designed to sort of help all aspects of kind of what you're doing. Certainly MoxiEngage is the CRM tool for real estate agents that we're going through today. MoxiImpress is something I'm not sure you're yet familiar with, but you probably will be down the road. That's really going to help around building marketing tools. Moxie websites is great. I do the sessions on those, and that pairs nicely with MoxiEngage in terms of building a website for brokers and agents and teams, which is great. And Moxie Talent and Moxie Present are more around recruiting rather, and also building presentations for specific clients. Some of all of these pieces are built into what we're going to cover today with the CRM tool, but I think this is a great starting point. In terms of what is MoxiEngage, right? Kind of the who cares, what's the so what here? Well, I think a couple things that I want to point out to you, right? Contact management, as we all know, is like huge. I get it because I'm in this business. I'm working on deals every day, but I know the value of kind of continuously leveraging your contacts is like really, really important to be able to do, to sort of stay current with them so you're not missing out on opportunities. And I know that in itself is a job, right? It almost kind of requires an additional process to be in place, which I'm sure you have, or you wouldn't be working in residential real estate. So that's great. What we're going to talk about is how this tool can be used in terms of contact management. In other words, leveraging that process, leveraging the who in terms of folks that are in your contact list, and how are we sort of maintaining that relationship moving forward. I can say, having done CRM training for a long time, right, it's really important. And, it's like, there's lots of people, there's lots of, offices, right? Service providers, agents, potentially competing for, business that's out there. We all know how that works. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how we reach out to, or how this tool can help you in sort of those efforts, right? Those marketing efforts. So we'll talk about kind of what's automated and what this can do for you in that capacity to just give you some tools, right, to continue doing what you're doing. This isn't a sales process training, but again, I want to show you what's here, what this thing can do, and then you're going to sort of be the judge of, engage. Wait, how can this help me, right? And that's what it's designed to do. So we'll talk a little bit about the email marketing functionality of this tool. There's also some really nice, kind of high level business goal setting, which is nice, where you can almost sort of track your progress. I know that our own performance management is something that we're always looking at, right? Kind of where am I the goal? And then kind of underneath that, okay, what activities do I have to do to, to sort of complete that? So thinking big picture, right, is always real important. I know sometimes we can get kind of locked into the minutia of maybe working on a particular deal, which is great. I understand that. There's some real nice tools in here to help us work, deal to deal, but then also thinking kind of big picture in terms of how we're managing our goals and how we're managing our overall contact with all the folks, right, that are kind of in our list of contacts, and also the different stages where they're at. So again, really super excited to sort of show you that part. We'll talk a little bit about business goal setting. Another component, which is nice, and I know this is huge, is this whole concept of MLS integration, right? So when you're sending and pulling, marketing pieces that we're going to see, neighborhood news, campaigns, et cetera, and getting information out to, your contacts, one of the things that's huge is to make sure that you're sending stuff that's current, right? I can't tell you every day, this is more of a, maybe in the retail world, in the commercial world, more of a challenge. I can't tell you how many times it happens where I'm visiting a broker's website to find a potential property for my client, and it's something is there but it's not available, but it says it's available, right? We don't want to kind of get into that dynamic. And so one of the nice things is this is pulling information live from what's on the MLS, and so you don't have to worry about a sync issue, right? And so that's really important, because again, if you're sending information on properties out to contacts, you want to make sure the information is current. Finally, another component that I think is also really nice is this whole idea of around task recommendations and coaching, right? There's opportunities in here to kind of continuously improve what you're doing, tighten up what you're doing. And we're going to talk a little bit about that as well, because again, like, what's the point? What's the point of having a tool, right, if it's not sort of supporting and growing your business, saving you time, and obviously putting you in a better position to kind of continue to do what you do best, which is obviously build relationships with your contacts. So again, it's an ambitious agenda, but in terms of, and it's an ambitious list of functionality. I'm going to show you again what this all looks like. A couple things also to sort of think about too. And again, I know this is getting into a little bit of process, but you guys are the experts. You've been doing this, right? You have kind of your routine in terms of what you do. One of the things that MoxiEngage does help with, right, is it just helps you kind of look at how you're managing your prospecting day by day. And I'm going to show you what some of that looks like. It says on here where you start your business day. So as we start to explore this, we're going to look at how can this kind of help in terms of how you're managing those actual activities on a day-by-day basis, right? We'll talk a little bit about goal setting. There's a little bit of a component in here around that as well. We'll also talk a little bit about surprising folks that are in your sphere with kind of like personalized campaigns, right? We always think about, having purposeful touch points. That was something that in all the years I've done CRM training, that's something that's always come up. Why are you contacting someone? Right? Like, are you contacting them with information on a property? Are you contacting them to respond to a particular request? Are you contacting them to say hello? Like, how are you sort of managing that relationship so that you're differentiating yourself, right? You all know your contacts, you know what those relationships look like. Again, we're going to try to leverage this tool to sort of help us with kind of that part of the process. And then in terms of like productivity, and I get it, a survey or a snapshot is a snapshot at a point in time, right? But folks have reported, agents have reported in terms of using this tool, right? Like, so it has helped them kind of increase their productivity, leading to, right, an increase in transactions, which is something that we're all working for, right? To save time, to have more, more value from the activities that we're doing, right? Bang for our buck. And yes, hopefully more transactions. Again, I know it's information on a slide. You guys are going to be the judge of this as we go through, but that just gives you a little bit of a sense of what Moxiworks is trying to sort of do with this product. I'm just kind of looking at the chat. I don't see any questions, so I'll certainly keep going here. So one thought is, if you have a relationship with somebody, and I can certainly speak to this personally, right? If you've done a deal with somebody on the sell side, on the buy side, whatever that is, right? That's a great opportunity, as you all know, right? Like repeat business. Is this something that someone who I could potentially work with again on another property? Is this somebody who could refer me to someone else in their network? And so, you all know the value of kind of being able to work with a person again where they sort of see you as a trusted partner. And so the opportunity to be, I don't know if reuse is the best word, but to have a relationship that grows with somebody is like hugely important from the sell side or the buy side. And I think that's what these two slides speak to, right? Someone would work with you if they've had a successful experience. We all know that as consumers, if we like a store, we go back to it. And again, I think this tool is trying to sort of help at least maximize all those points of contact that we are having with somebody. And if we're doing our part, which you guys are all professionals, you do what you do, that's great. If this tool can kind of help just even within that structure of those contact points so that we're not missing anything, so that we are having purposeful reach outs and communications, again, maybe it can lead to sort of some repeat business, right? That's kind of the hope. So what we'll see as we go through a couple things, right? We'll talk a little bit about connecting in a second to MoxiEngage, and that is important because we get some questions all the time about syncing and current contact list, and we want to make sure we cover that. We'll also talk about business goals, right? We'll spend some time on what's called the agent dashboard, which I think is, again, to me, it's pretty straightforward, but I want you to sort of see what that looks like. We'll navigate that. We'll also talk through what's called staying in flow with your people and those different ways that we can connect with them. We'll also talk about kind of moving through what's called the sales flow. Some of that information is going to be very intuitive as we look at it, I imagine. But again, I want you to sort of see the way that this categorizes where somebody is, where a contact is kind of in the relationship, right? And by doing that, right, and it might be a little bit of upfront work, hopefully that will help you sort of leverage this tool. We'll also talk about how it can organize your contacts. And then finally, again, I want to show you kind of what that help function looks like. Again, questions, I don't see any hands up. I'm gonna keep going here, so we'll stay on this. A couple reminders kind of from the start in terms of getting going on MoxiEngage, right? So in the dash system, which I imagine you're familiar with, right? Your information is in there, right? Name, phone number, email address, license number, etc. We just want to make sure, right, that the information that's in Dash is correct. And if there are errors, if there's an error with an email address or a phone number, your office and you probably know about it already, right? If you haven't been getting mail or there's been some other problem. So long and short of it is we just want to make sure that the information that the system has for you is correct. And then if that is correct, the reason I mentioned that is that information is going to sort of pull into Moxiworks, into MoxiEngage, and that's important to sort of have correct as a starting point, right? A second kind of reminder here, right, is when you move on to MoxiEngage, in order to use MoxiEngage, it says there you will need to use one of the following, right? So either a free Gmail account or a company provided Office 365. And so if you guys are on something different, right, there might be an additional step in terms of at least getting all your contacts into a Gmail account or into Office 365. It should be pretty straightforward, but I'm going to send you some additional information on what that process is if for whatever reason you're not on one of those two platforms, because again, folks ask about that all the time. In terms of what will sync, what will pair over to MoxiEngage, right? So contacts, like it says on the slide there, contacts from your main contact folder, calendar events, and also those categories from Outlook or groups that you might have in Gmail. So we just need to make sure from the start, right, that this process of sort of syncing over is pretty straightforward and that it's not something that's confusing. Again, I know it's just a couple slides here. I'm going to get you some additional information on specifically what those steps are. Those steps are also going to be mapped out for you in the Getting Started guide, and it shouldn't be that complicated. If it is, obviously we're going to help you and work with you through that, but that should be pretty straightforward. CRM migration tools that currently work with this tool, right? Zap, and then I think Market Leader is the other one. And so migrated contacts, it says on there, will populate MoxiEngage and sync to your email account. It shouldn't be a huge deal to sync. I know we've gotten lots of questions about this in the past, so I'll just pause at this point. Does anybody have any questions or challenges that they can anticipate or think of as it relates to syncing their current contacts with MoxiEngage? And again, if anyone wants to unmute or throw a question in the chat, kind of happy to navigate it. And like I said, you're going to get additional steps moving forward so that it is pretty simple and straightforward. Okay, I don't know. I don't see anything. We'll keep going here. And again, please unmute if you've got a thought or question. Again, want to kind of be mindful of the time that we have. Uh, so a couple things also to think about, and then we're going to jump right into the showing you the tool itself and kind of leave the slides, right? If you think about all the folks that are kind of in your contact list, and again, I don't know how you currently have it sorted or grouped or categorized in terms of who's in there, but you know, your sphere, right, is kind of everyone you know, and that's really important because those folks can lead to referrals, or they could become customers, clients themselves, right? But those folks obviously would kind of fall into a couple categories, right? So you've got everybody you know, you've got non-clients. We're going to certainly talk about that, right? Personal, or maybe somebody that you work with, and then certainly clients, sellers, and buyers. So this tool is going to help us sort of be able to differentiate and categorize who's who. And that is important in terms of leveraging some of the marketing components that this has. Broker leads, obviously coming from a variety of sources. We'll sort of talk about those as well. Broker determines routing, and then so there's other tools in place, obviously, to get contacts into the system. And I'm sure in your offices they're working on that as well. But what we want to do is make sure that we're finding a place within MoxiEngage for everybody in your sphere, and also those broker leads as well. Another super tool from my perspective, because I've done a lot of this training, I've seen a lot of different lead related tools. Lead router, right? Or I'm sorry, leads engine is basically a tool that will pair with MoxiEngage. I know that that's not what this training is about, but one of the nice things about leads engine is basically it's going to, much like what's on this schematic here, it's basically going to bring leads right into MoxiEngage, which is really nice. And again, an agent will get a phone number and an email, but if they accept a lead that comes in that's qualified, that's a match, it will go right into their MoxiEngage account. So you'll probably get some more, your office will get some more training on that down the road, but just know that this is not just a sort of a standalone. So when existing leads come into your office that are a match for you, that your broker, your office sets up as a match based on area and property type and market, etc., deal size, those leads will make its way to the agent. The agent can accept, and if they do, they'll go right into MoxiEngage, and they can follow up with those in that space as well, and that's important. Lot here. Okay, one last dynamic I guess I just want to sort of show you, and then we will jump into this tool, right? So one of the nice things that you can do as a starting point, I'm sure whether it's on a quarterly or yearly basis, I'm sure everyone has goals from a perspective of like kind of their overall, we'll say, gross commission amount, dollar amount that they're looking for, and then also in terms of transactions, right? So this number can be changed whenever you want, but one of the nice things is that you can actually put that number into this tool, and what it can do is then it can then break it down, and it can actually look at, okay, well, where are you, and let's track as you kind of go through and you make your transactions throughout the course of the year, where are you in terms of your gross commission income goal. And I always think about, okay, well, that's real nice, David, that's a big picture item, why do I care? I always think about if you're setting a goal within a CRM system, if you have a big picture goal, from my perspective, kind of the so what there is, okay, how can I translate that down back into activities? What are the activities that I'm doing, that I'm tracking towards, that are going to get me to sort of that, and again, I don't know if you guys are always sort of thinking in this capacity, I imagine you are, but how many phone calls do I have to make? How many contacts are appropriate to a particular person that's kind of in my contact list, et cetera, et cetera? What's it going to sort of take for me to get there? So this just gives you a little bit of a platform to sort of start thinking about that and tracking towards that. It's not a performance management tool, but it does give you a little bit of guidance around how far along are you towards kind of reaching that number and tracking towards that. So that's a little bit of context in terms of the agenda, getting started, syncing, what we're going to see. What I'd like to do now, if I can, is let's leave the slides. So just give me 1 second and let's actually jump into the tool itself. So stop here. This works. So I'm hoping you're all seeing something on your screen that right now that says good morning or good morning, Edward. I don't know, Richard, you want to give me a thumbs up if that's something that you're seeing? Okay, thanks, Richard. Okay, so what you're looking at here, let me kind of take you through sort of the so what. So this is what's called the dashboard. And so every morning when you open and you jump into, when you open, when you wake up and the first thing you do because you're so excited is you log on to MoxiEngage, right? So what is it that you're going to see? And so basically this dashboard there's a couple things here that I want to point out, and then obviously we'll go into them and kind of the details. So what is stay in flow? Right. So basically stay in flow is pulling, and you're going to have a way to sort of set this up, but stay in flow is pulling 5 contacts that might be at different stages of, sort of where they are on a transaction, or they might not, you might not be currently even working on a transaction with that person, and we'll talk about that. But basically it's going to pull 5 of your contacts from sort of your list. And then it's going to give you, a little bit of a status in terms of where they are, like you can sort of see on this board here in terms of activity that you've had with those contacts. And then it's also going to give you an opportunity to reach out to that person via a call, a campaign, a personal note, whatever it might be. And we'll talk a little bit more about where this comes from in a second. But stay in flow is nice because basically what that's doing, like let's just say I'm working on several other things. I'm working on several deals, and maybe it's not my focus today to kind of go back to my pipeline or everybody that's in my contact list. This is going to, based on activity and based on the cadence we set up, it's going to pull 5 people and give you an opportunity to reach out for them. And like, to me, that's huge because there's so many people on my contact list that I really need to sort of be following up with them continuously. We all know how that works. That's stay in flow. We're going to come back to this in a second, but I just want to give you a bit of a tour of kind of what's here, right? Activity feed is really nice because it's going to show you what's going out, right? And what mails have sort of been open. And again, same thing here, you'll be able to sort of set the cadence in terms of what the activity feed looks like. So you're going to get a sense of, well, what are folks doing with the information that's being set out to them? And so we'll talk a little bit more about activity feed in a second. To-do list is nice. Again, we're looking at a training version, so you don't see a lot here. But if you have specific activities, and I'll show you this in a bit for particular contacts, all those things are going to sort of pop up here so that you can see what's in my to-do list for today in terms of task, in terms of transaction tasks for somebody I'm working on a specific deal with, or maybe somebody who I'm sort of still in the connection stage. All that stuff is going to sort of pop up here, which again is kind of another nice feature. Sales flow, and this to me is kind of pretty exciting. We're going to in a bit, we're going to sort of characterize where our contacts are in terms of our relationship with them. Like, are we just, are they just there, or have we currently talked to them about a potential interest, about a potential property? Are we actually working on them with a deal, like where something is active, or are they sort of in that pending category where we're actually on a transaction and we're moving forward? So sales flow is really nice because it's going to give you a sense of, where am I? Where am I with folks where I haven't sort of started a deal? Where am I with folks that we've started to talk? Where am I on actual deals that I'm working on? And where am I on things that are sort of pending and working towards a close? And those numbers for anybody, for all of us, right? That can be a real sort of sense of how I'm kind of distributing my time, or where I might want to sort of distribute my time kind of moving forward. There's no right or wrong. I'm just saying that this kind of gives you a sense, if you're using the tool, of where am I in terms of what's happening with everyone that's kind of in my pipeline, right? Active listings, things that you have, will also appear on here, and then certainly things that you've had on your calendar or scheduled on your calendar for the particular day. And then also, like I said, goals, right? And we're going to talk about this in a second. Where am I at this point in time on August 30th towards my goal in terms of my close rate, my commission rate, my average deal size, my number of transactions? And so, periodically, that can be helpful to see. I don't know if it's something we need to necessarily look at every day, but it's nice to sort of see how I'm kind of tracking along. So this dashboard, everybody, is something that you can organize in terms of what do you want to appear first, right? You can kind of move these things around. Do I want my activity feed? Do I want my to-do list, right? I can bounce things around, you know, in any way you like, but it just gives you a sense of what's kind of happening with my overall sort of portfolio work, right? Things I'm currently working on, what's happening with all my contacts, what does my calendar look like? And then certainly kind of what are the activities that can come underneath those. So it's a lot here. I get it. You kind of almost have to get in here and play around, which we're going to do in a second. I'll just pause at this point. Questions, thoughts, any reactions to kind of what you're seeing in terms of your current process? Thumbs down, thumbs up. Any so for anyone that's on the call, any thoughts on what you're saying? Okay, I see a thumbs up, so that's positive. I know it's early in the morning. If you've got a thought, let me know, put it in the chat or unmute and tell me. I'm going to kind of keep going here. Let's just come back to what's called the stay and flow. And so when I see this, and you know, when I kind of introduce this to groups, typically the question is, okay, well, David, how do I know who's going to come up here? It says reach out to 5 people today. We'll talk about reaching out in a second, but how is it determined who's sort of popping up here, right? And so let me just direct you towards this little gear, right? This little sort of spoke here. If I click on that, this gives me an opportunity to set what's called the cadence, right? So, and this is something that you can think about. How do you want to sort of set this up? What would be best for you? But this, to me, like this would be perfect for me in my business as opposed to or my sort of contact management process, because I'm kind of all over the place, candidly. It says here, choose how long someone has been out of touch before they are surfaced. So if I'm going really more than 30 days without contacting somebody that's in my list to know, like, where are we, you know, on a particular, if it's not on a transaction, okay, that's obviously more immediate, but I want to really keep abreast of my buyers, like have their acquisition criteria changed within 15 days, 30 days, maybe there's been something happens with interest rates, right? I want to kind of keep abreast of that. And so, you know, stay on tune to that. So for me, like 30 days is perfect. You choose kind of, but if I haven't spoken to somebody within, you know, 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, again, how am I sort of maintaining that relationship if I want to have an opportunity with that contact, maybe moving forward to you know, to do business. So to me, like, this is a great opportunity to remind you of where folks are. Another dynamic you can set here in the cadence is what's called surface these people to me. So where are they kind of in the you know, the deal cycle, right? Are you working on a transaction with them? Obviously that's important. You know, pending or active. Are they just a prospect where maybe you've had some preliminary conversations about their interests? And we'll talk more about this. Or are they just kind of, they're a contact? We haven't necessarily marketed or sent something to them, but there might be some opportunities there. Are they a past seller? Are they a past buyer? Are they a lead? Are they uncategorized? Is it a personal contact? So really, to me, like, kind of all these folks are important. And one of the things that's nice is the algorithm in here is going to pull, right, folks from when you've contacted them previously, 30, 60, 90 days, and it's going to pull them up on a regular basis. Let's see, can you make different cadences for each group? Can you make, let's see, can you make different cadences? So you almost like for each of your groups within your contact list? Is that the question that's being asked? Yes, okay. Yeah, so let me get back to you about setting up cadences for groups as opposed to applying. That's a really good question. Just jot that down. So cadence for a group versus everybody. Let me come back to you on that one with some information from the project team. That's not a specific question that I've asked before, but that is a good one, because again, it looks like, looking at this board, that this is applying to all your contacts. So let me, if I can, come back to you with a response on that question. Definitely important to sort of understand, because I get it. You might have all your contacts, but then you also might have sort of particular groups, and how are you sort of best engaging with them. We'll talk also a little bit more about groups in a second, but I just wanted you to sort of see how you would set up the settings for stay and flow. Let's actually, if we can, just drill a little bit further here. Let's talk about ways that the system allows you to connect with the folks that will be popping up within the stay and flow. So if I go to, let's just pick this name here. So Mercedes, let's just look at what happens when we click on reach out. This comes up here. Okay, so basically what this is doing is it's giving us a couple different ways to connect to this contact, right? So call is pretty straightforward. Their mobile number should come up based on obviously what you have for them in the system, no problem. Email, their email address should come up. Let's see what happens if we click on this. Let's just try this. Boom, you get a sort of a blank mail paper here to sort of write the email addresses in here, and then you're sending her a mail directly from MoxiEngage. Same thing as if you were working in your email program with being able to do font size, et cetera. You'll send it, and then you will see that it is sent. When you go into your sent folder in your email, you should see that in here. So again, that's another nice way to obviously sort of connect with somebody and do that right from the tool. As an idea or a thought or some reason to kind of connect with them is in place. So email messages, pretty straightforward. We're going to talk also a little bit about campaigns here in a second. I do want to also point out another way that we could potentially connect with Mercedes. So let's just actually click on her name and let's just see what comes up here. Okay, so Mercedes right now is in what's called the marketing category. And so this might be the time to obviously sort of have a conversation and kind of understand what would be potentially of interest to Mercedes in terms of location she wants to be in, property type she might be looking for, et cetera, because right now she's not yet a prospect. And we'll talk about what that looks like in terms of moving folks along in just a second, from marketing to prospect, obviously to active, where you're working on a deal depending with this particular person. But for right now, this person is not yet a prospect. So what would be involved in getting that person to being a prospect, right? So basically what this tool does is it gives you some, and again, you can add to this, you can delete some of these. It gives you some suggested touch points, which you are all probably doing anyway in terms of your process, in terms of, how you might sort of start to sort of, enhance the relationship that you have with Mercedes to potentially work on something. So you see all the suggestions that are in here, terrific. One thing that you can do is provide for this contact something called neighborhood news. Let's just click on where it says subscriptions. Let me just click on add here for a second. So neighborhood news is really nice because basically what it is it's a monthly overview, right? It's going to basically send to somebody highlights of what's happening in a particular area that might be interested in. So let's just say that Mercedes is interested in a particular area. Let's say that particular area is, I'll put on here, San Francisco. Hopefully this will pop up. Great. So we can certainly customize, and again, maybe she just says San Francisco, maybe we want to get a little bit more specific. And Mercedes tells us she's interested in a particular deal size, a particular number of, bathrooms, bedrooms, et cetera. And then obviously all those additional filters that you could imagine. One of the nice things that we can do is we can pull, or the system will pull live from the MLS, right? Actual, listings of what's happening in a particular area at any particular time. And so if this is coming to Whitney on a monthly basis, it's coming from us, right? We're adding value here. We're looking at basically at the criteria that we've captured from her that's important. And basically what this can then be doing is providing, kind of a customized look at what's kind of happening in that area. When I say customized look, so she'll get actual listings that will be specific to maybe the criteria that she set for us, obviously sort of coming from us, that's great. She'll also get a sense of maybe trends that are happening in San Francisco and over the past 12 months in terms of house prices, number of listings, what's action, median price, et cetera, And to me, and also obviously trends, that's putting information in front of this, this particular contact that's of value. It's not pushing a product in front of her, right? It's not, and this happens to me every day. I get thousands of mails from brokers sending me deals that are not what I'm looking for, even after I've had a conversation with them about what my clients are looking for. So to me, like, this is a huge value add. If I'm continuously putting in front of somebody who's a contact potential properties that might be of interest, right? Like, to me, that is certainly sort of adding value. And so I really like neighborhood news. I think it's a great way to sort of stay connected with somebody, on a monthly basis, where it's pulling information that's specific to them. And obviously you can kind of follow up and make sure that the criteria is correct. But to me, like, this is a great sort of add-on tool, right, to really make sure that we're focusing on what might be important to Mercedes. And the reason I mentioned that is by doing this, right, by putting information in front of her that might be of potential interest on an area or on particular properties, it puts you in a better position for her to maybe come back to you and say, wow, like, this is something I want to act on. There's a property here that I want to act on. Let's kind of move forward. And I don't know if all the other agents or suitors that Mercedes has in the brokerage world or in the agent world are connecting with her in that way versus sending her deals. How about this one? How about this one? How about this one? Right. And so you all know that, again, you're much better at marketing, but I just think this creates a customized experience. So that's something that I really like. Let's if we can, let's just kind of come back to our dashboard again. I know there's a lot here. Let's just come back to stay in flow. We'll come back to Mercedes, right? So you've got information on here. Then obviously, once you've subscribed her to neighborhood news, when she pops up again, or when we go and look at her, you'll be able to see when we look at her profile, okay, what has she been subscribed to? And that can, maybe a follow-up mail is appropriate, or whatever the case may be. So emails are obviously one way to connect with people. We're all familiar with those. Neighborhood news is another way. Obviously, you can also obviously get to her some specific information with neighborhood news. Another way to stay connected with everybody in your contact list as you deem appropriate is something called campaigns. So let me just click on campaigns for a second here. Campaigns can basically kind of run the gamut of, they can just be touch points on, for a particular, based on a particular season, right? And just another opportunity to sort of say hello. They can be reminders. So there's all kinds of different campaigns that Century 21, right, that the office will put in here for you to be able to leverage. Certainly some of them can be customized as well. But let me just give you a sense of what some of these campaigns are so you can see, okay, what's the so what behind a campaign. So we'll just click on add from library. Let's just kind of see what pops up here. And again, your version is going to spin faster than my training version, so rest assured of that. It's moving here. Okay. All right, let's just click on this one. It says doggy campaign for dog lovers who love new leads. Okay, great. Let me just give you a sense of what this one looks like. Again, these can just be reminders for different things. And this, you might be seeing these and be like, well, David, who cares? How is this applicable? It's basically, and again, you be the judge. Are there opportunities that you, or times that you connect with a prospect where it's just saying hello? Maybe it's a reminder of something that's going on or an event that would be of interest to them, whatever it might be. Like, to me, those are really important, as opposed to all our communications being just around, how about this one? How about this one? And again, you guys do this every day. You're professionals at marketing. I'm not in your shoes, but I think that the opportunity to get information in front of a contact that's just saying hello, keeping your name present, the brand present, I think can be really valuable. And that's one of the things that campaigns allows you to do. If, let's just say, we did want to add this doggy campaign to our list of campaigns, we'll just click add to campaigns. Let's just see what pops up here. Give me 1 second. Okay, so now it's here. This is great. Basically, our next step will be to go ahead and sort of set this up. So we've got our doggy campaign. We've previewed that campaign. So the next step, once we click on this, let's see. Okay, so basically what we'll do here, and again, everyone, this is pretty straightforward, won't spend a lot of time. You'll click on setup. You'll go ahead and you can send this to a whole group of folks if you've got, and again, you'll probably have groups within your contact list. If you want to add a recipient, no problem. You click add a recipient, and then that campaign will get to this party, and you're kind of off and running. I would encourage you, just in the interest of time, to spend, as you get a little bit further along here, spend some time looking at the campaigns that are here. You'll get a sense of what's been provided. Another really nice thing that you can do after you sort of selectively send these out to folks that you feel would be appropriate, you can take a look at, and you can certainly adjust the schedule, but you'll also be able to see, like, what is the open rate? What is the click rate? Like, are folks actually looking at these campaigns? And like, to me, if they are, great. It's a purposeful touch point, opportunity to say hello. If you're seeing that that's not as prevalent, and maybe you're seeing, you all, I don't know if you all get the, you've gotten emails from a consumer or a retailer, whatever, and sometimes you unsubscribe because you're tired of seeing those every day. Like, I get the Domino's pizza mail every day at 4:30 until one day I'm like, I don't want Domino's anymore, so I'm unsubscribing. Long and short of it is, you can unsubscribe to some of these, or a consumer can. But if you're starting to see, what the click rate is, what the open rate is, opens the number of clicks, as you look at this over the course of the weeks and months, and something is effective, great. If it's not effective, maybe that's not the campaign that you want to be sending to that person. So again, I would encourage you to spend some time looking at what's here, because again, it's another way to sort of have those purposeful contacts with your folks here. Let's just come back just to kind of keep things moving. I don't see any questions here in the chat. Let's come back to our dashboard. Let's come back to stay in flow. So we've talked about the way that these folks are coming up. We've got some questions, obviously, around groups. We've talked about this wheel and kind of the cadence for how these folks are appearing and being able to set that. We've also spent some time just talking a little bit about the ways to reach out to folks via campaigns, via email, obviously a call or a personal note. We've also gone into this particular person's example from Mercedes, and we've looked at ways to add, whether it's add a subscription to neighborhood news, or in that same place you can add a listing subscription, and how that can be a customized way to stay connected with this contact, which is great. What I'd like to sort of show you now, let me just click here. Let's come over here to our sales flow. So within our sales flow, we started to sort of talk about this before, you have a couple different categories, right? So marketing, let's just look at this for a second. And again, I assure you, your version is going to spin faster than mine. So basically what this will do is it will show us folks that are in that marketing flow. And so you're going to have an opportunity to kind of categorize that as we move along here. But that's really important to be able to see, because you'll also be able to see sort of the activities that tuck up under marketing, right? And so if I know where somebody is in this particular flow, and there is an opportunity to sort of move them along, right, that can be really sort of significant, right? And so if I want to, let's just click on one of these for a second. So if I look at Ronna Gregory, right, it says on here that she was somebody that I've worked with in the past. She's a past buyer. So what would be the things that I might want to be thinking about in terms of those opportunities to connect with her? So neighborhood news is nice. So she kind of continues to maybe get a sense of what's happening in a particular area of interest. Listing announcements, obviously campaigns, opportunities to say hi can be great. Maybe making a personal phone call, scheduling a meeting. Again, you can change these. This is just giving you sort of some templated ways to connect. If you want to add a task to here, no problem. And then also when you click here, you'll also get some additional details in terms of things where you can, again, you're not seeing that in a training version, but that's something as well that you can add here to the tasks that are here. The reason why I'm mentioning or showing you sort of this list of tasks. Once these tasks are completed, maybe you want to make this person a prospect. It'll say to you, your marketing plan is ready to go. Let's get started. Okay, marketing plan, make this person a prospect. Let's see what happens when we click on that. It's going to now ask you, or the system is going to ask you, in other words, have you had some communication with this person to warrant that Rana Gregory is now somebody who you're ready to maybe move forward and work a little bit more closely on a specific need with. So it's going to ask you, is this person a buyer or seller, right? Transaction name, great. Is there a particular MLS property maybe that this person had expressed an interest in? Are there any additional details that you want to add here? Okay, you'll go ahead, you'll add that information, you'll click done. It's not going to let us because we haven't added anything, but I guess the thought here, and again, you guys are the experts, you're doing this on a regular basis. If I know where somebody is, and I know someone's maybe here in marketing or they're ready to move along to prospect, like to me, that's really important because that's going to sort of funnel up some additional activities to narrow in on with that particular contact. And again, I don't know how you guys are sort of organizing that now, but if I do with this tool, if I do add some information for Rana here in prospects and I cover sort of those additional tasks, that's great because basically what that means is now that person is going to sort of move up on my, in terms of on the calendar, in terms of things that I need to do with this particular person. And the tool is basically going to sort of mandate that we enter that information, whatever that might be. And then if we want to move further along, let's say, we're ready to go and we're ready to make an offer on a particular property. Let's just click over here to where it says actives. So again, kind of same thing. If we were going to move Rana along to actives, there's going to be even more particular information that we're sort of asked to enter here, more additional details in terms of, a start date, a closing date, et cetera, and so forth and so on. So again, I don't need to go through all the sort of the task with you under each of these, but at least it just gives you a sense of, to move from, marketing to prospects to actives to pending for a particular contact. You're kind of, not only are you moving them through the cycle, but you're really structuring in such a way or capturing, well, what would be the activities that need to take place within each of those categories to sort of move them along. And, again, you're the judge of this, but maybe this helps from an organization perspective, just making sure you're focusing on what needs to be done with that contact to sort of move them along and just organizing that information. Because if you're working on multiple deals simultaneously, which I imagine you all are, like stuff can kind of get lost in the weeds. So this can be an organization tool specifically with these sort of categories to sort of help you through that. Let's actually come back to our dashboard. It's a good place to sort of to stay. Or to anchor to. One of the things that you'll also sort of want to do as you sort of move forward here is be able to sort of see everyone who's in a particular zone at a particular point in time. And so if I click on marketing or prospects or actives or pending, I should see everything that comes up within that area at one time. And that's also something that you're going to sort of want to have a chance to do. Let me just make sure that we haven't sort of missed anything here. Just come back to. So we've got marketing, we've got prospects, we've got actives, we've got pending. One of the things also the first time you go through here that you might be thinking is, wow, David, I've got 150 or I've got 700 people within my contact list. How am I going to sort of organize all these contacts kind of into one space? Let me, if I can, show you, just give me 1 second here. There is a way that this tool has to basically kind of organize everybody that's in a particular zone. And I think that's really important to sort of be able to do from the start. And so really the first time that you start to enter information in MoxiEngage and get all your folks in here, you're really going to sort of want to concentrate everybody on at least capturing who's pending, right? And making sure that you've categorized folks appropriately in terms of transactions that you're working on, who's active. And then obviously, as we get a little bit further along in terms of the marketing and the prospects, you'll be able to organize folks into sort of those categories. Let me, if I can, actually show you this, a tool to help you with this on the slide. So just give me 1 second here. Let's actually jump back into slides for just a second. Hopefully you can see these. Okay. So one of the nice things that Moxie allows you to do in terms of those, all those different contacts is something in Task Manager where basically beyond adding people, there's something in here called the wizard. And what the wizard will allow you to do is basically to categorize or sort of mass categorize where everyone is sitting. And so you can basically differentiate somebody between the different zones where they're at. And again, going through this and doing this individually certainly could take some time. You can also do it in just to kind of show you, you can do this in bulk as well. There's something called this categorize wizard, right? Which is pretty straightforward. Basically, what this is going to allow you to do is it's going to ask you, should someone be categorized as a client, where you're going to add them to the sales flow, or a non-client? Like, that's really important. Are you working with them on something, or are they just a contact? That's important to be able to do. And all your contacts will come up at one time, and you'll be able to categorize them and just kind of go, you know, ding, ding, ding across the board. That's something that can be really helpful. And by doing that, by categorizing them where they would fit in into the flow, basically that's going to set you up to then say, okay, I can sort of see where this person is. What would be the sort of the activities that would come on underneath that? And then you can kind of go ahead and set the cadence accordingly. You can also, and someone asked about this before, you can edit groups, right? You can set this thing up in groups where you can create groups to further categorize your people. And I know someone asked a question about, well, is that going to make sure that specific content can be sent to those whole groups? I'm pretty sure you can do that, but I want to confirm that with the team. But basically, by being able to do that, you're basically now making the tool work for you, right? If you're setting this sort of thing up at the start, at least categorizing folks, your contacts, once you sync them over, that should really kind of put you in a good position to sort of start to work with those folks and put them into those different groups, and then follow those sort of tasks that would come accordingly underneath. So again, I know we've covered a lot in kind of the hour that we have. There's also obviously sort of a help function in here that you can see on your screen, and that can answer really any of the questions that you might have around the stay and flow and the feed and the to-do list, and you know, anything that you could possibly imagine. So that's one way to sort of get feedback. There's also a getting started guide that's going to be provided for you as well as you move further along. But I'll pause again. I know there's a lot here. I tried to give you a bit of an overview of the different things that this can do and how to categorize stuff. What questions can I answer for you, or what is your sort of reaction to what you've seen at this point? I don't know, just use it and see. Okay. Good thought. I don't know, Sparkle, are you there? Or Linda, or Jan, or Richard, any additional thoughts?
Hi.
Go ahead.
Hi, I'm here.
Hi.
Just yes, sir. Just trying to make sure I make class to see the new tools, and
Yeah.
Yeah, I got to get in there.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point. I mean, you almost really have to get in here and play around with, you know, get the syncing right, sort of start to categorize, and then really start to get comfortable with, okay, what do the campaigns look like? What's here that would be of value? Have I categorized my folks? And if I've done that, I'm in kind of good position. And again, I think it's pretty intuitive as you go through. I know I sort of showed you a lot. It's kind of customizing this to your use. let me, if I can, let's just, as we sort of think about, kind of those next steps. Once you get going on this, this tool, right? Basically, there's sort of that help function, but you also should have, there's a getting started checklist that should be available on your Century 21 University. You should be able to find the tool there. I'll also get you guys the recording of what we've covered today. And again, you can't answer sort of everything at once on this tool, but I would encourage you as you go through, and I'll send, I think Teresa was the person that was on my list, but if any of you all want to also put your email addresses in the chat, I'll make sure that you get this information as well, or I can send it directly to her. I think you have a bit of an overview now to get started. And I'm hoping that you feel like this tool does a couple things. One, that it really sort of saves you time, even though there's maybe a little bit more time up front, and that it opens up some more of those opportunities with all your contacts. I've got some homework here in terms of questions, and I got some follow-up to do with you all. Is there anything else that I can find out for you about this tool based on kind of what you've seen to this point? Okay. Okay. All right. Well, terrific. Really, again, greatly appreciated the opportunity to kind of take you through this. You will get some follow-up communication from me. Great, Teresa, and we'll just keep on it. So thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning. And again, more information to come.